Hey, what is up? My name is Jordan, and just something to know about me is that growing up, one of my least favorite things in the entire world was going to the dentist. You might be the same way. Actually, I still hate going to the dentist, and I hated it so much that I just went back after an embarrassingly long dentist hiatus recently, and the smell walking in after years of not being there made me gag. It was disgusting. All these memories of cavities and drills in my teeth from the past just came flooding back in out of nowhere. So, when I was a kid, all you got for going to the dentist was a new toothbrush and a pack of floss that both the dentist and I knew would never get used, even though I would fake it for a second and say, of course I'm gonna use it every single day. Nowadays, dentist offices are incredible. They're like the playground at Disney World. It's people go in, there's slides built into the walls, you get prizes you get to take home. They have movies that they show above the dentist chair. It is crazy. In my day, there were no movies. There was soft jazz playing through the intercom and a few inspirational posters around the room of stock photo looking nature scenes, which I always thought was kind of strange. How is this picture of this squirrel in the wild helpful while this dentist is literally drilling holes in my teeth? And what am I supposed to do when I'm staring at some waterfall above me when I'm in such trauma in the moment? Well, looking back, I realize now, thinking about it, that the dentist knew something that I think a lot of us understand. As tacky as those pictures were, there is something about nature that calms us. And yeah, maybe if we stare long enough at a nice photo of a coral reef, we might forget about the fact that someone is drilling holes in our teeth, or at least just feel a little calmer in the moment. There's a reason that looking at beautiful images of nature can sometimes make us feel something deeply and help us focus in a new way. And all the more when we are actually in nature, experiencing it for real, immersed in the creation. That's not just true when you go to a national park or to the beach for vacation. Sometimes just stopping long enough on a walk to notice the flower growing up in the cracks of the sidewalk is enough to make your day or change your mood for the better, right? And maybe all of that sounds great, but have you ever wondered, does it really matter? Is creation, this world that God has made and the stuff God created, this planet that we live on, just something to appreciate and look at, or is it built for something else? What's the point? And what's our purpose when it comes to creation? Do we have a role to play here? Because it seems there are definitely a lot of people who really, really care about it, and maybe you're one of them. So the question is, why do people care about creation? I mean, sure, nature is nice to look at, but beyond that, are we supposed to be doing or not doing something about it? In this world, it's hard to know what exactly any of it has to do with us and what our role in creation is. There are all sorts of reasons for this, and reasons why people like you may care about creation in the place we live, and we all probably have different perspectives about it. Maybe you're the person who really, really, really enjoys the outdoors and nature. Some people are just wired for it. Given a free afternoon, you're the kind of person who would spend a day hiking or fishing or in the park. Or maybe your idea of a perfect vacation is getting as far away from people as possible and going out into the wilderness. Maybe you like to camp or be outside. Or on the flip side, maybe you're a little more indoorsy than outdoorsy. Maybe you couldn't read a compass or a map to save your life, but maybe for those of you in that camp, there's something about a flower in a garden or a sunset from a rooftop of your building that inspires you and catches your attention. Or maybe you're somebody who cares a lot about taking care of this place we live, and you feel frustrated that previous generations didn't seem to have done a whole lot to take care of that nature that you love. Or maybe you don't care about that at all, but you notice other people do, and you're curious, why are people so excited about metal straws or mad about plastic bags? Or maybe you're the kind of person who just emotionally, you wish school was outside instead of inside because you feel so much better in the sun. Or maybe you hear all of this and you're like, I couldn't care less. As far as you're concerned, outside has always been there. And as long as it continues to be there, what's there to care about? I mean, yeah, litter is not cool, but it's not the end of the world. I don't know where you stand. I don't know what you feel about the outside world, but one thing is true. We all feel something about creation, whether we realize it or not. There's just something about mountains and volcanoes and beaches and city sunsets and a dandelion and blue skies and pine trees and palm trees, the first flakes of snow and the smell of fresh cut grass, something about all of that stuff that makes us feel something. So the question is, why? Why do we feel that? Why do we care? Why do humans of different ages and different beliefs and families and experiences all seem to have this common emotional response to the creation? I know it's a deep question, But it is fascinating though, right? And maybe this is the question you're asking right now. Why are we talking about this at church at all? What do volcanoes and waterfalls and sunsets have to do with God or the Bible anyway? And why does any of this matter? It's a great question. And I want to show you because I think what we're about to discover will change the way you see the world around you and may even give us a clue into why people care about creation and why I believe God cares too. We're going to look at a psalm today, which is this old word that basically means poem. So the entire book of Psalms in the Bible is a poem book that talks about almost everything. Some psalms express frustration with God at the same time that they also express worship to him. They mention people's hurt and anger towards enemies while also addressing the promises of God's faithfulness and forgiveness. They cover every emotion. And the psalm we're about to look at is in chapter 19, and it basically explains how looking at creation can make us feel a certain way and what it can do for us, and reminds us that we aren't the only ones who feel this way about the world. Check this out, don't miss it. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them, yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the end of the world." David is the author of this psalm, and what he's basically saying here is that being in creation can be somewhat like reading the Bible or like going to church. Being in creation is a spiritual experience. It's like hearing God's voice when you're surrounded by this amazing world he created. That's what all those kind of strange words he used mean, like pours forth speech or proclaim or their voice goes out. David is saying nature is talking to us about God. Creation points to a creator. Paying attention to creation gives us the chance to get to know the Creator better. How's that possible? In the very first book of the Bible, Genesis, the writer talks about how God made the world. And it also reads like a poem, because after each thing God made, he declares it good. He says, the earth and the sky, good. The land and the water, good. The sun and the stars, good. Everything shows God at work. It doesn't just highlight what God has done, but displays how good all of it is. Meaning, the thing you feel when you see the world is something in you that recognizes what God has made is good. You were made to feel the way you do when you notice any part of creation because that's how God feels about it too. Not only that, but there's more to it than just appreciating it. After God has made everything that makes up the world we live in, including human beings, the writer of Genesis goes on to say, God did this. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work and take care of it. Another version of this same verse says that God wanted man to dress it and keep it. How cool is that? And the word used there in the original Hebrew communicates this idea of serving. It means working in a way that is helpful to the land, to keep watch over it and preserve it. Which means this, you were made for more than just admiration of God's creation. You were made to watch over it and to protect it. Since the very beginning of time, we have been entrusted with the job of preserving what God has made. We get to enjoy it, appreciate it, and let it become a way of experiencing God while also treating it like God created it. Because he did. A fancy biblical word for this is stewardship, which just means that we should be trustworthy and responsible with what we've been given. It is important to care for what God has entrusted to us. So, when we talk about the planet and we talk about creation, we aren't just talking about something your earth science teacher talks about. We're talking about something God cares about and made us to care about too. In other words, caring for creation isn't some trendy idea, it is a spiritual idea. It's actually an ancient idea, it's God's idea. So what does that look like for us? What does that mean? There are a lot of different ways people think about caring for the world, so what is the best one? Where do we start? And what does God have in mind? Well, the truth is, when it comes to the role we can play, it honestly looks different for everyone. And a lot of it depends on how exactly you see nature in the outside world right now. It could be something as simple as just getting outside more and going and playing in the creation. Or maybe it's paying more attention to the creation around you. Whether you live in a city, the suburbs, or a rural community, there's likely a part of nature you haven't stopped to notice in a while. So stop and notice the ways that creation points to the Creator. What about God do you notice in the world around you? How do the heavens declare the glory of God, like the psalm says? Or maybe another way to say it, how does the creation around you show how amazing God is in your world? Or maybe it's time to take one step toward being more responsible with what has been entrusted to you. That might mean volunteering to pick up trash around your school or choosing to recycle your daily bottle from the vending machine. Maybe this week it means helping clean up the land around your church. In other words, maybe your first step is treating the planet like God made it and genuinely honoring that. And I know for some of you, you've cared so much about this planet for so long, and you have been losing sleep because of your anxiety over it. For you, maybe you have the protect and preserve part of the creation down, but you might need to spend more time actually enjoying it, getting outside and experiencing what God has made, appreciating it as good. Still being passionate about the cause, yes, but not losing sight of the gift the planet can be for us. Remember, just like we need you to treat the planet like God created it, you need to treat yourself like God created you. So rest and breathe. Do your part, but don't feel pressured into thinking taking care of the entire planet depends on you. When it comes to caring for the place we live, the place God made, everyone can and should do their part. But not everyone's part has to look exactly the same. In fact, it should look different. Only you know what works for your life. But no matter what you decide to do, the point is the same, to treat the planet like God created it. Because it is important to care for what God has entrusted to us. When we remember the world around us was made with purpose and care, it just changes the way how we see and treat it. We begin to see the world around us exactly how God intended it, as the creation that points to the Creator. When we gather every week, it reminds me how big God is. I'm reminded that God is more interesting and more powerful and more creative and more able and more loving than I can ever imagine. And that is what I hope happens in your groups this week. I hope you use this as an opportunity to see God in the creation around you, and that you remind each other just how big, amazing, and awe-inspiring God is. As you head to your groups, think of the way you and those in your group can work together to encourage one another, to care about creation in a way that honors God and honors the planet God has made.